Hello, Zinger Nation. This is Justin Roberti. I am here with Web3 Anarchy, and today we are going to have a representative from Tezos. But first, I'd like to bring on my longtime erstwhile co-host, Logan Ross. Well, and he's popping right off, and
You
there
do.
we go.
You got it. Hey,
Oh, there
Justin,
you
how's it
go.
going?
There you go. It's going great. It took me 3 attempts to bring you on, so everything's beautiful. How you doing today, Logan?
I am doing well. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? I
That's
am very,
that's right.
very excited for today's interview. Tezos is one of the few, big blockchains out there that I haven't really, dove into. We haven't really talked too much about on Benzinga. So today we are going to get into it all. Justin, lots of interesting stuff going on in the space. Tell me a little bit more about who we are talking to.
We're talking to Carolyn Rogers, who is head of marketing for Blockhouse, which I believe is also it's directly associated with Tezos. Of course, everything that they're doing is through a DAO. Their architecture in terms of decision making is part of down to being a DAO and doing distributed and vote based decision making is part of what makes them so interesting. I had spoken to another one of their heads of communications over the weekend. I thought this would be a really good fit for the show. It's a chain that everyone like has heard about. And there's been a lot of buzz about, but I think many of our viewers would like to hear more about. So Caroline's going to come on and Carolyn's going to come on and help elucidate us.
All right. Without further ado, here she is.
Hi,
Hi,
Carolyn.
Justin. Hi, Logan. Great to be here.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, and I swear it looks hottest where I am. Although I doubt that's true. I think I just look the sweatiest out of the three of us. But so thank you so much for coming on today to talk to us about Tezos. Really interesting project. I understand right now that Tezos is in terms of is it do you accept the term alternative DeFi network? Are we okay with working with that for the time being? So I know Tezos has some thoughts about whether it is really DeFi or not. And of course,
Well,
alternative implies alternative to Ethereum, so which I've always thought was a little shady personally. So, how would you describe Tezos?
yeah, most simply, you can consider it a layer one blockchain, proof
Mhm.
of stake blockchain. It's been around for several years. It was initially proposed in 2014. The main chain went live in 2018, and it's been growing ever since. So it's a layer one blockchain.
Right, definitely. And at this point, you're coming in 46 with TVL of just under 80 million at this point, according to Defalama. What makes Tezos' ecosystem unique?
Yeah, so I'll back up a little bit and talk about kind of how it was designed and envisioned. And as I mentioned, it was first proposed back in 2014, and really from the observation of what was happening in the space at the time. There was Bitcoin at the time, Ethereum was just emerging, other projects were emerging, and it was really trying to take the best ideas in the space. First of all, design a blockchain that was, founded in some core principles of security, decentralization, but also efficiency. There was a desire not to go down the proof of work mining route, because it's highly energy consumptive. So designed with a proof of stake consensus mechanism from the outset. So that's the first thing to note. But then, as you mentioned and alluded to in the intro, it also has this on-chain governance mechanism, which is pretty unique and robust in the kind of landscape of blockchains that are out there. To date, since the chain launched back in 2018, it's been able to upgrade itself 9 times successfully by community participation and voting on the chain, which really, it's hard to overstate how exciting that is, because it's really like the Web3 way to do software development. And the Tezos community has been proving this out year after year, and making improvements to the core protocol and improving efficiencies. And even actually in the latest upgrade, we just had the Tezos community just had the latest upgrade. It's ninth, called Ithaca 2 is the name of the upgrade. it went so far as to actually swap out the consensus algorithm, which is like a foundational piece of the blockchain's design. So it's pretty amazing that it can seamlessly do that, simply because of the on-chain governance mechanism that is baked into the design of the network.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about this unique governance mechanism. What specifically makes it unique? What problems does it solve that the creators saw in the industry?
Yeah, so you think back to the block size wars that plagued Bitcoin for a while. You think to, Ethereum the community has been wanting to transition to a proof of stake mechanism since as long as I can remember, since 2014. And the trade-off that you have with decentralization is how do you actually move collectively forward together? And if you don't have a mechanism already designed in order to do that, you end up with things like the block size wars, where it's ideological differences. What is the vision? What does it matter what the vision was? What's best for the network? What's best for the end user? Which one of these things actually matters? And so if you can't achieve consensus on these things, you won't actually have a way to reliably upgrade the core protocol. And so that's why you end up with these, you end up having to hard fork in some cases. And then whatever the community decides is like the main chain becomes a main chain, and the other ones, maybe fall into oblivion or don't amount to much. So this way you maintain that kind of canonical chain, and a way to as a community upgrade it.
It's interesting that, first of all, it's great that you've had it in mind since 2014 to essentially follow DAO ethics in terms of how, or DAO functionality in terms of how decisions are going to be made, and that you're living up to that. There's a lot more talking about being a DAO in the space than there is actual doing it, as far as I've run. So it's great to run into a project that's already working that way. But what do you do to guard against cases where, the equivalent of gerrymandering within the voting system? And if I'm able to change what the consensus system is, then I can gradually, lean it toward a prejudicial point of view, or a point of view that gives one party more control over another. Can I not?
So in theory, you're saying you could propose changes to the network that maybe allow it to make other sorts of changes down the line, kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess
disproportionate voice. Yeah.
In theory, that is possible, but I think it would be very hard to do that, because each upgrade goes through a very rigorous process of community evaluation, lots of debates in various forums, contentious debate in some cases. So the governance, the participation is working. I think in this last upgrade, there was over 70%, what you would consider voter turnout to pass this mechanism, and it has to this upgrade, and it has to reach a super majority. So you would really have to convince the entire community that of the direction. And I think there's enough smart people in the community that if they thought they was trending towards some kind of nefarious way of doing things, or more centralization than they thought was appropriate, that wouldn't go unnoticed, is my sense.
Yeah, if the big hacks that have happened already this year have shown us anything, it's that decentralization really does matter. You need to look under the hood and see those numbers, see what that means, and take a look at the different barriers to entry. So, if you could talk about how decentralized is Tezos, are you guys concerned that one of these big hacks might be targeted your way? What type of security measures do you have in place?
Yeah, so there's several things about that. One is that the core protocol of Tezos was designed from the outset in a functional programming sort of way, using OCaml, which is maybe a less widely used functional programming language, but is known for its expressiveness and security. So it's already designed with that in mind. And then the second thing is decentralization is very important to kind of the ethos of the Tezos community. And in fact, to your earlier point, Justin, about how how you might change the protocol over time and
Mm-hmm.
the governance over time. In this last upgrade, the community decided to actually make it so that the barrier to entry to become what they call a baker in the Tezos community, a validator, used to be 8,000 Tez, and they reduced it to 6,000 Tez. So it's actually now more accessible to become a baker. And so in theory, this improves the decentralization and will allow more people to come on as validators and set up a node and get going. So that's the direction that the community, I believe, intends to continue, and it's super important to them.
Tezos is in an interesting position because you are, well, all blockchain projects on some level are staked in belief, but in particular, Tezos is reflective of the community that is staked in it, of the shareholders that are invested in it, or the stakeholders that are invested. Have you seen a shift in the personality of your investors since the advent of the extreme surge in popularity of NFTs? Because it really seems like NFTs have brought in a different cohort of investor, including more demographically balanced.
Yeah, NFTs have certainly been a very large focus in the Tezos community in the last couple of years, and Tezos as a whole has certainly benefited from the mass awareness that is coming around NFTs. Certainly a lot of traction among the arts and culture space, marketplaces like Hicket Object.com, Rarible, that are all minting NFTs on Tezos. So it's been really exciting to see kind of the blossoming of the arts and culture space with relation to Tezos. I don't know how much that has changed the kind of the ethos or the personality of the Tezos community overall, but it's exciting to see that other industries, culture, arts, fine arts, music, that it's I've heard it described as like, this is Greenwich Village in the 1960s. All the cool kids are coming and experimenting and creating art in this community. So we love to see that.
Very, very cool. You just recently did a big physical arts display in Venice. I'm not sure if you're looking to shout that out or not. I think that was your most recent announcement. That's what I originally started talking to you about on Friday. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sadly, I was not there in person in Venice. I would have loved to
Me
go.
neither.
Yeah. So Venice Biennale is a fine arts event, and our team was fortunate to do an activation there featuring Tezos, featuring an NFT artist called Echo 33, and a generative art display, 3D kind of screens showing this artist's AI generative art. And then you can kind of collect commemorative NFTs at the event. So that's just one example. We've done similar things there was Art Basel in Miami back in December, which was a big hit, featuring another big AI generative artist, a German artist, Mario Klingemann. That was I unfortunately was not there either, but it was an AI kind of portal that you could walk into physically and get sort of scanned in 3D and have your personalized self-portraits in this like generative AI art way, and then collected as an NFT. So a lot of cool experimental stuff going on, just showcasing what the technology is capable of.
Oh, that's really cool. I'd love to see that. Did you do one? No, you didn't do it.
Unfortunately, I was not there, but I was able to go to. We've also done some exciting things at South by Southwest recently, and I did get myself avatared into the Metaverse. We had like a 360 camera setup where you step in, and these cameras all take your picture at once. Yeah. You get a 3D rendering of yourself collected to your wallets, and you're minted forever as an NFT on the Tezos blockchain. So
they put you one of those mocap green suits with the little sensors on it.
No, you don't. You don't have to do that. You just walk in and it captures you. It's very cool.
That's awesome.
So on the topic of Metaverse, some blockchains are meant for security, some are meant for more scalability, right? Solana being more for gaming, Ethereum being more for security, just as one given example. Where does Tezos fit in along this spectrum? Where do you see its long-term niche growth market?
Yeah, that's a great question. The Tezos community really wants to build things right, in a methodical and community-based approach. So everything, the way I view the blockchain landscape overall is all of these chains and communities and ecosystems are experimenting with trade-offs, and what trade-off is important to you as a community, to what you want to, what industries you're trying to serve. And in the case of, achieving high scalability, high throughput very quickly, sometimes you have to make trade-offs in terms of decentralization. And there's various criticisms around that. Is it as secure as it should be? Is it as decentralized as it could be?
Mm-hmm.
Does it matter that now all the power, all the validations are happening in only a dozen or a couple dozen nodes? Does it matter? To some it may, to some it may not. So I think for the Tezos ecosystem, being able to methodically bring in the approaches that the community wants to see at any given time through this upgrade process, it's kind of building blocks over time. But I will say that scalability is a focus for the community in the coming months and years. So we're going to see more of that. And in fact, the next proposal cycle, the next proposal that was just made to the community, it's called Jakarta. It may not be the only proposal, but it's the one that's been submitted so far. Is proposing something called transaction optimistic rollups, something with an eye towards more scalability and supporting higher transaction throughput in the future.
How many transactions per second does Tezos?
Yeah, today it's around 200, but in fact, there's some developments on the infrastructure, the node infrastructure that are coming out and constantly coming. And there was recently an update to the Octez software, which is basically like the software that you run to bake or validate and run the Tezos network. And so as various validators start to adopt that updated infrastructure, we're actually going to be able to see reliably 1,000 transactions per second, hopefully soon here as that becomes adopted. So very exciting.
Now, are those just transactions, balance transactions, or are they smart contract transactions?
Well, in the case of what's been proposed in the Jakarta proposal, it's specifically transaction optimistic rollups with an eye towards smart contracts optimistic rollups in the future. So starting kind of from the transactions point of view, and then expanding to more complex types of transactions.
Forgive me for not knowing this, but is Tezos a Turing complete virtual machine?
Yes.
Okay, so there could, compared to like Ethereum, right? You can do any type of transaction. Same.
Yeah, it's a smart contract platform. Yeah, it's a smart contract platform with its own language called Michelson, and various smart contract languages that have been created to abstract the Michelson language that you can use, more familiar things like Python and other syntaxes.
Okay, I thought we were going to lose you for a second. You froze for just a second.
Okay, am I here?
Yeah, you're here now. I was like, uh-oh. I was thinking of whatever pattern Logan and I will have to do for 12 minutes if it frees up. Now, I was wondering, if first of all, what's your take on ETH2? What are we going to see this proof of stake mechanism in full effect? And will it affect your life very much over there at Tezos when it does launch?
Well, I'm optimistic for the whole blockchain industry. I hope they get there. I've been hearing about this transition for as long as I've been in the space, which is since 2017, 2018. Have not seen it yet. I know they've suffered various delays. I think it won't necessarily change what Tezos is doing or how we think about the work that the Tezos community is doing. In fact, if anything, it's validating to see. This community has been doing proof of stake since its inception. So it's validating to see that this is the way that Ethereum wants to go, as well as most chains today use a proof of stake mechanism. So I hope they get there. I think that's good for the planet. I think that's good for the industry overall. And I wish them the best.
Absolutely. Well, that's very interesting. What is your take on? Did you hear about the Bored Ape Yacht Club hack from over the weekend, or the one that was on
It was on Instagram earlier today.
Yeah, it was on Instagram
earlier today.
And then put out like a phishing link, and there's like 100 apes that just got stolen.
Yeah. Well, I know there's I don't know if you guys follow the website, web3isgoinggreat.com or something. And it's like chronicling all of these various hacks. Yeah. I mean, these things happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It seems to be particularly destructive toward, and particularly I feel bad when it's in the area of NFTs, because there's so much trust and enthusiasm going on there right now. It seems like such a delicate thing. Like it almost can't stay that innocent forever. And every time there's another rug pull or another scam, it seems to take some of that trust away. Do you think we'll lose the momentum in terms of NFTs? I mean, I haven't seen it happen yet, but do you think that the train will finally start to slow down in 2022 on NFTs?
I don't think the train will necessarily slow down. I think these hacks have happened and sort of plagued the blockchain industry as it's been growing up for years. These are setbacks in some cases, but it's learning, it's exposing vulnerabilities. A lot of these things happen at the application layer or at layer 2 layers, for lack of a better word. So the farther you get from the core protocol, yes, the more careful you have to be. Not everybody is necessarily building their applications and their marketplaces with the same level of care and integrity and security and decentralization. So it's still kind of like consumer beware at this point. And I think people who are excited about the space know that. It may continue to scare off those who really are still skeptical of the space, but I don't think the NFT boom is going to slow down necessarily anytime soon.
If I could change the topic just a little bit, Carolyn, I have this question that I heard at the Bitcoin conference a couple of weeks ago that I've been thinking about a lot since. And they said, is Bitcoin causing or reacting to the global chaos that we see around us right now? Obviously, I think it's somewhat
reacting.
It's impossible to know exactly, but curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, I wouldn't say it's causing it. There's a lot of reasons for various types of global chaos that we are seeing. Like any market, markets react to various factors, and it'd be nearly impossible to pinpoint exactly what has caused what. So I'm by no means an advanced economics expert, so I would not want to speculate, but I don't think it causes the chaos.
Probably not provably.
Not provably, yeah, exactly.
Justin, what do you think?
I think it's an extension. I think all crypto is an extension of a need, right? I mean, and obviously, I think that what we've seen during the pandemic, if we were looking for any sort of proof of whether a digital currency was going to have a role in a world that was in crisis, I think that we've seen definitely that there is that case. Now, how is it, Carolyn? What am I missing in terms of the distinction? Now, you obviously have tons of DeFi use cases all over Tezos network, but what in the way that you describe yourself, you're a security network, you're a customizable network, but not necessarily a DeFi network. What are the distinction what's the distinction that we're making there?
Well, there's not a ton of distinction that you have to make. Tezos is a smart contract platform. It's a blockchain platform that can support all manner of applications. It just so happens that it's really seen first a boom in kind of the NFT space and arts and culture and things like music, and we've seen a lot of brands embrace this as well, like Gap and Guerlain and others choose to partner using Tezos and mint NFTs, and that's wonderful. I think you'll start to see more and more DeFi activity on Tezos. Especially as the scaling comes to fruition through the upgrade process. So, other chains may, today have more DeFi activity, but I think we're going to start to see that pick up a lot on Tezos.
By the way, everyone, like and subscribe. Feel free to ask questions over on the side. We're going to just take a few more questions from the audience if we have the opportunity to. So in terms of what is your ecosystem like approximately how many developers, how many projects are going on? What can we expect to see from Tezos in 2022 in terms of projects?
Yeah, it's been really exciting to see. The best measure that we have is of kind of the health of what's going on in the ecosystem. Not necessarily developers. I don't know how to count all of the developers around the world, but we look at the contract calls on the network as an indication of the real applications, the real projects that are being built, how many transactions are going through them, and so from January of 2021 to January of 2022, we saw a 4,000+% increase in contract calls. So I think 100K last year to 6 million in January of 2022. Wow. So my hope is that only continues and we continue to see that trend. But it's been very promising.
Wow, that's really, really cool. So it's growing quite a bit, and there has been an interest for a while. Is there anything else that you can sort of tease for us that's coming up? Like what should we should be looking for next from Tezos?
Yeah, I think a few things. I think we'll see a lot of continued growth of activity in projects, DeFi projects. I can't spoil or specifically say.
It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Logan won't tell you. It'll be between us.
But I think you can look for some exciting announcements that will continue to bring even more liquidity into the ecosystem, which is what we want to see. From the perspective of brands and institutions, we've seen a lot of traction in the past year. Manchester United, for example, choosing Tezos as their technology partner to expand how they plan to interact with their global audience and other esports and sports brands as well. And then, of course, the technical aspect. This is a blockchain that is designed to evolve, and so the nice thing is that it's not just going to stay static. It's not just going to stay the same. And so, as research and advancements continue across the blockchain industry, this community has the ability to actually bring that in if it so chooses. So. More towards scalability, first at the transaction level and then at the smart contract level.
I think a question on everybody's mind in the space is, how is this going to reach the next billion users? Does Tezos have a unique strategy for scaling before other blockchains do?
I don't know if it's unique to Tezos necessarily, but we do have, my job as a marketing person. I'm very focused on the developer audience this year. I'm really hoping to focus on developer acquisition for this ecosystem. Building out more infrastructure and application layer infrastructure to the community so that it becomes a flywheel of activity, and we see more and more projects. So that's top of mind for me, at least.
Is ultimately Tezos working toward an interoperable future? An interoperable future is pretty much the expectation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we'll see that, especially as some of the changes that have already been proposed set the stage for compatibility with EVMs and more interoperability in the future.
And you already have EVM compatibility, or you're working toward that this year?
We're working towards that.
Perfect.
With all the challenges we've seen with the EVM compatible bridges, what do you guys what are your takeaways? What are you working on to do differently?
Well, I couldn't speak for the core dev teams who are working on that. I'm sure they have their ideas of how they plan to solve that. But I know that this is a very thoughtful and methodical and smart group of people working on this. So I have a lot of confidence.
If you could speak a little bit more to the team and maybe the history of Tezos, because that's something we haven't gotten into yet. Could you take us through the backstory of Tezos, where it came from?
Yeah, so it was first proposed in 2014 in a white paper under the pseudonym L.M. Goodman, but co-created by a husband and wife team, Kathleen and Arthur Brightman. So that's kind of the origin story. And as I mentioned, looking around at what was happening, being very excited at the developments, in Bitcoin and Ethereum and other projects at the time, but noting that there were drawbacks to those designs, both in energy efficiency, but also in kind of the insight that if this thing is supposed to last a long time, how do you upgrade a decentralized system? So it kind of was born from that insight, and then with a lot of work behind the scenes to actually build it and then launch it in 2018. And since 2018, it's seen a lot of growth and continues to improve itself every few months.
Mm-hmm. And to take a question that we're getting from the audience that kind of plays off that, Lakshmi is asking, where do you see Tezos in 10 to 20 years? Is it on Robinhood?
Oh, I hope that it'll be very prominent. I'm biased. It's what I work on every day. But the nice thing is I have a lot of confidence that it will be here in 10 to 20 years because it is designed to evolve because of its on-chain governance mechanism. Mm-hmm. So, where other chains may just, hit roadblocks, not be able to come to consensus, not be able to, compete with each other in terms of, scalability approaches or other approaches, Tezos has the ability to do that. So presumably it'll still be around.
And as you said earlier, I guess it's pretty fair to say you could take credit. Tezos could take credit for being, right in most of its initial assumptions, at least as so far as we can see. With Ethereum, it's remaining king of this particular space, of the smart contract space, and yet third in terms of TVL, and where's the rest of ETH too?
Right.
Logan, you should find that out for us.
Are you sure that Ethereum is third in TVL? I'm pretty sure it's
yes, yes, or at least it was as like 2 weeks ago. It was behind Solana and Terra.
Okay, I'm on DeFi Llama right now, and Ethereum is 116 billion TVL. Second place is 30 billion TVL.
Okay, well, I thought it was okay when I was, as of like 3 weeks ago when I checked the study, it was in third place. That was my headline, but anyway, we'll have to come back to that.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, Carolyn, it's been really awesome having you on. Is there anything else you would like to? And where should we find out more about Tezos? Where would you like to send people to?
You can check out Tezos.com, Tezos.com. That's the easiest place.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been great having you. Logan, thank you for joining us as well. It's been a very good time.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Carolyn. Okay, well, that was very cool. It's a cool project to learn a little bit more about. Definitely, I think a lot of blockchain projects going forward are going to need to bear in mind this energy efficiency thing, whether people are into that or think that's politically manipulated or not. I think it's just going to become a cost of doing business. The whole carbon offset approach to it and lower energy costs, like proof of stake instead of proof of work. What do you think, Logan?
First things first, I think proof of work is incredibly important. I think Bitcoin's proof of work is incredibly important.
Logan coming in with the Bitcoin purist point of view there, and
I think that Ethereum's proof of work was necessary for it to become as decentralized as it is. I'm not sure if you're aware, but proof of stake was in the original Ethereum roadmap.
Right.
That idea was around before Ethereum was created, and they said that, hey, we want to get there, but this is how we think we could do it best, right? We still don't know which way is the best way, and we won't know for 50 or 100 years.
I just think that we are, regulators are going to continue to beat us with this environmental regulation stick, whether we want to consider it a trumped up thing or not. I mean, I've seen studies which suggested what I forget what they compared it to, like other kinds of appliances, refrigerators. What is the use? What is the energy usage of Bitcoin mining versus some other industrial usage, for example? Like, honestly, there's a lot of things that if collectively compared, it's not as great, but it doesn't matter. It's what regulators are going to use to control, to control crypto.
I tend to think that this narrative is pushed by those who are trying to buy themselves more time to adopt it. I think that their incentives will align sooner than later, and we'll see this narrative disappear. Narratives tend to shift quickly when the incentives change, right? And I think that the Bitcoin incentive is potentially too much to pass up for most of these people at some point or later, right? I also think that there's a very valid argument that fiat costs a lot more to secure. Obviously, military costs a lot more money. And Bitcoin's proof of work is a built-in natural incentive to switch to renewable energy, right? So I think people can make extra money by mining Bitcoin on the side. They'll realize that their incentives will align. I think people will figure it out, but we'll see. Certainly, it's not over till it's over, right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So I'm going to make a point of having more layer 1 and layer 2 blockchains come on the show. Big fan of whenever I can do that. Polygon, Algorand, Polkadot. These are all guests that we're trying to line up for this coming Friday. I'm going to have Super Rare on as well. I'm going to talk to some major NFT platforms. So please come and join us at 5 p.m. on Friday, and we will have another discussion. As always, thank you so much, Logan. And thank you to Carolyn for joining us today. Thank you all for joining us. Please like and subscribe. It makes YouTube happy. It makes Benzinga happy. So we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a pleasure as always, Justin. We'll see you guys on Friday.